Hello, and welcome to a special holiday edition of Emotional Support Water Bottle with Hannah and Ailish.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Ailish. We are here today.
We've got Ariana Maddox's book, and we've got a drink. What was this called again?
Book.
There it is. Single AF cocktails. I know. Don't spill.
Okay, this book or this cocktail is called My Sweet Honey, a honey-laced tequila highball. Stunning. And yes, I know we do not have highball glasses, but please bear with us.
Yes, we're doing our best here.
I'm going to read the little intro, I guess, that she has for it. Every cocktail tells a little story. I have not read all of them yet, or I haven't read any, to be honest. So this is at the beginning, and I think the beginning kind of starts at like her relationship with Tom, and then it seems to go through its demise and then her,
coming back.
Yeah. So this is at the beginning, and it says, "For all the toxic, hurtful pain to come, there was sweetness too."
Aww.
And this drink is a reminder of that. It was often hard to have our private lives unfold on the show. Being in the spotlight can take a toll on even the strongest of couples. But while we had our fair share of tumultuous moments, I always found comfort in how we would turn toward each other during those times. When people attacked our relationship, he always made me feel safe and seen. This tequila highball balances zingy ginger beer with a ribbon of honey syrup for my sweet honey that was.
Oh, it's so sad.
I know, it really is.
I just
so
cried.
Sad. I know. So we haven't tried it. We did a slight different variation because we had cranberry ginger beer. We thought it would be a little more red for the festiveness.
It's
but
not at all.
It's a peach color. But cheers to Ariana.
Oh,
It does have a zing,
it does.
but it's fresh.
It is fresh. It is like a good holiday-ish
It
type
is.
of drink.
If we had like fresh cransberries to pop in there, that would be or a little grenadine to like make it red. We're just changing her entire.
You know what? It actually sucks. We're gonna redo it.
But no, this is good.
No,
this is good. We also have some peppermint sugar cookies here from Dough. When I smelled the tub, it was very pepperminty.
Oh my.
So we have these. It's a special holiday edition. We're going to watch a
movie. Oh yes, we're gonna watch May December.
We're going to snack on our cookies and drink our drinks. We are recording this a little early.
We are.
Because the holidays are coming and we know we're going to be busy.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're trying to get ahead of it so that we can make sure that we still provide for you every week. And we have some exciting news.
We should be, hopefully, if everything works out well, doing an interview with a special guest.
Yeah, our first ever interview.
I know. So hopefully we'll be talking about some good Bravo stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe some other pop culture things.
Yeah. And that should air like right before New Year's.
Yes.
Then the Friday before New Year's.
Yeah. If all goes well.
Yeah, if all goes well. If not, we'll have an emergency get together. And we'll continue on as normal. And just a side note too, I know you guys come to us solely for our Beverly Hills recaps, but because of our schedule, we're going to be probably recapping multiple episodes when we do our interview with our special guest. So we're not going to be talking about Beverly Hills today.
No, we're going to be talking about, well, whatever this movie brings up.
So we've heard mixed reviews about the movie.
Very mixed.
I know Heather McDonald had kind of a lot to say about it.
I know. But then I've heard a couple good things, but then I just didn't want to hear anymore because I want to decide for myself.
I know. I really didn't dig into the plot.
The only thing I tried to look up was if it was supposed to be solely based off of the real case. And I guess it's just more loosely based because that's the part I was confused about. But
well, I can't remember what that woman's name was.
Like Mary. Was it Mary?
I don't know.
We'll look it up.
Yeah, we'll look it up. But yeah, she was in this relationship with a
12-year-old. Yeah. Wasn't she? She was either 36 or 38.
Yeah, she was the teacher. But the thing that was crazy about that was that they ended up like getting married, having another kid.
Yep. And like she was in jail.
Yeah.
But then they were still together, but then she has recently died.
Yeah, I don't know how recent it was. I feel like it was in less than 10 years for sure. But I guess COVID messed everything up. I can't remember.
I know but I guess that the guy has since talked about how it was like he had a lot of mental health problems after this.
Well, I mean, I can see why. Like, that's how can you really go into a relationship with an adult when you were that young? So, but I think this movie kind of veers off quite a bit.
Yeah, because there was as far as I know, nobody's trying to make like a movie of this story, which is like supposedly what this movie's about. A woman trying to. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting. So, I guess without further ado, we're gonna watch the movie and then we will come back and we'll give you our full thoughts. This is a emotional support water bottle first. The temperatures are starting to cool down, and you know what that means. It is cookie making season. So instead of making your own cookie dough or going and buying that prepackaged stuff at the store that we know isn't super healthy, why not try something that is actually made with good for you ingredients? That is where dough comes in. These cookie doughs are ready to make right out of the tub, and you can also eat the cookie dough raw because it is vegan and gluten-free. The best part is that it's enhanced with different vitamins and supplements that can support your immunity or help stabilize your mood. We have tried a few of these different flavors, and we're always eager to try new ones. They are so delicious. We've tried the donuts as well, which are so perfect to put in your lunchbox for work, and we're going to be trying some of the delicious spreads that they have soon. So if any of that sounds good to you, go to Eat Dough. That's dough spelled DEUX.com and use our promo code WATERBOTTLE for 10% off. That's eatdough.com and use promo code WATERBOTTLE.
Well,
okay, well, we just finished May December, and we also watched a few Mary Kay Letourneau interviews.
And we are thoroughly disturbed.
We are so uncomfortable.
I know. Like, okay, so the movie overall was, apparently it was supposed to be a black comedy. It wasn't, the humor was more like cringe and uncomfortable, creeped out.
And like the really dramatic music, like this dramatic score that would play at certain points. You're like, ha, ha, like, am I supposed to chuckle? Or like just kind of some of the dramatics of it all. But, I
guess Natalie Portman's character was like kind of a little bit funny-ish.
Yeah. So for those of you who haven't watched or don't know, we now know the premise of this. So the Natalie Portman is like following this family, which Gracie is Mary Kay Letourneau, and then Joe is Vili.
Yes.
And
he's an adult at this point.
Yeah, like 35, 6.
Yeah, and their youngest kids are graduating.
Yeah. So, and she's coming to play her in a movie and like getting information on how to play Gracie. And And
Jeez.
I guess just like some weird things happened throughout. I thought the acting was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought Charles Melton did really good.
Oh my God. Yeah. I thought.
And Julianne Moore did good.
Then after watching those interviews and seeing like right back to back, I'm like, yeah, she did embody Mary Kay Letourneau. And
ickiness of her.
I felt like at first I didn't notice the lisp, and then it seemed to become more apparent as the movie went on.
I feel like she tried to make her seem like, oh no, like I'm a younger person, but
and one thing that's like not related to the plot of the film, but just it made me think when we're watching like Natalie Portman, what was her character's name? Elizabeth or something?
Yeah.
Go through and like the acting process. And it just made me think of like, not to be controversial here, but The Blind Side or like, similar movies where actors have followed or spent a lot of time with the people that they're playing. But this seemed like a lot more extreme.
Yes.
Like, it just made me wonder, like,
I know, like, is that really what they do?
Yeah.
Right? But also, they probably don't. There's not really any real people that have been played with this type of situation.
No.
So it is kind of like.
It was just like she was really, you watched her morph into the Mary Kay Letourneau character.
Gracie.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such an icky.
It is. And especially like because we were trying not to know too much about the plot. So we didn't really look up a ton about this case. And obviously we've heard about it because it's been around.
Yeah, for a long time.
But if I would have, I don't know. It's like because the movie's based off of a real horrible, gross situation, it did feel weird like watching it or like laughing.
I know. And it was, like there were a couple like funny moments. Yeah. Like when, the son, Georgie, Elizabeth meets him and they're with the lawyer.
And then, that's her son before.
Yeah, her first marriage. And he's like a hot mess, basically. And then the lawyer's like, oh, this situation wasn't without casualties. And just the way he said it was so funny. It's like the whole thing is a casualty. What are you talking about?
Ugh.
But yeah, I mean, I thought that it was it kind of slow? Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. And it was very like a very intimate movie. Like you got a lot of like dialogue and them like looking at the camera, even though they were looking into like mirrors. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, that was an interesting shot. I thought. Yeah.
It's like we're seeing them seeing themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a creative movie. It's interesting that they chose to make the movie about an actress wanting to play this woman.
I know.
Which I guess that's the best way to do it with this type of situation.
I mean, because any other
without
way,
like glorifying it.
Yeah.
And I do feel like the Joe character, I thought it would get really sad.
Oh
like they did a really good job of him like being like, oh my gosh, my kids are graduating, and it seems like they were trying to imply that he stayed for that reason for like his kids, and now that they were graduating, he was like,
he didn't know what to do really. When I was looking up some stuff, I believe I could have this wrong because I wasn't reading it like fully, but I think it said that he suffered with like some mental health stuff and depression, and had an attempt on his own life, and I think that's completely understandable. Like the way that Charles Melton even played this character. Right. It was like, I just thought he really was the standout.
I know. And he like did that perfect, like dead inside. Yes. Like, what am I doing here? And he was almost like a kid still.
Yeah.
Or like an awkward 12-year-old
even
still.
like the way that he did his body language, like he was really slumped over, like he really
depressed.
Yeah, he didn't, like he had kind of given up on life, is going through the motions. Yes. Like it really was sad. And then he has this kind of emotional moment with his son that that was kind of the first time that he opened up and was like,
I'm just trying.
Yeah, I feel like I just am creating these like traumatic moments for you. And it just was sad because he's closer in age to his kids than his wife. And I don't know. And then like the mental health, like the personality disorder, like you could see it so much with Gracie, how she just would manipulate him.
I know, and like lay there and cry about stuff, and he'd have to comfort her. And
it's sometimes acting so young, but then at other times treating him like he's the child and she's the mother. Like, God, it is easy to be manipulated by that and to kind of get wound up in it and not realize what
especially if it's going on for so long and it starts so young. And it's just
I thought the whole time that Gracie and Elizabeth were gonna like have a affair.
I know. Yeah, it did kind of like imply that a bit, or even like Elizabeth and the other son, like Georgie. It was like, is something gonna happen here?
Like we even said it in the middle of the movie. We're like, everybody has tension. Like that's the way it felt. This whole movie, it felt like I was like on edge.
Yes, because it was so. And I almost thought there was gonna be like a darker twist to it, but it didn't really. I mean, the whole movie is a dark twist, but it didn't have like a weird ending almost.
Yeah.
It was kind of like...
The ending was very abrupt. I mean, I don't really know if there was a way that they could have ended it differently where I would have been like, wow, I'm so satisfied with how that all... But it left us with questions like, what happened to Joe? Like, what is he doing now?
Like, did he leave her?
Yeah.
'Cause I think...
It did kind of imply.
Right. I don't know if I already said this, but I thought I read that they had gotten a divorce.
Oh, before
she passed away.
Yeah, I thought that they did too. And then she was diagnosed with cancer.
I wonder what all that was.
And then we were just watching the interviews, a couple of them. And it was so jarring, like to hear like Barbara Walters and other interviewers be like, you know, she seduced him, or she, or not seduced. What did they say?
Well, there was a couple times where they said like, oh yeah, she seduced him, and we were like, you don't seduce a child. Like that's not the way that works. It's like you assaulted him.
Yeah, you brainwashed him. You groomed him. Like that.
You're not seducing a child as a grown woman.
And just like the delusion that she, even like the one interview, I wish I looked how recent it was, but it was obviously in at least the 2010s, I would say. And they're still together at that point. And she's like got the short hair, and she's like, I mean, what was I supposed to do? Like I told him you have to leave.
Go.
Yeah. Like,
even though we're in the car alone together. Or like she's like, telling the story about how you were trying to see under my skirt and hiding in the closet. And he's just like,
yeah, he looked even like dead inside.
I know, and it's like you don't act upon that then. It was great. But, even the interviewer, and we were kind of talking about it too, was like, because it's a woman to a young boy, it's like, it's kind of turned into like this whole media circus, and like people almost just like joking about it. Instead of being like, no, this is unacceptable.
Yeah, because it was an Australian interview, I believe, and he was interviewing one of the detectives, and he's like, when they were caught in the car the first time, and he was like, if that would have been a male teacher and a female student, he would have been brought to jail immediately.
No
and
questions
even
asked.
the detective was like, yeah, that's true, but it was Mary and we all knew her. Like, what difference
She's a stand-up
does that make?
citizen. I know. It's like, oh,
And
I'm
you
sorry.
said she's in a t-shirt. There may or may not have been panties
underwear.
on. Like,
It's
come
like,
on.
What are we doing? It is interesting too, like just with the older women and the like young child, because I listened to Anthony Kiedis's book,
Mhm.
and just the way, like, you know, not to like give him any type of excuse, but he was dating teenagers in his 20s, and there's no excuse for that. But he was older women, like over 18 and stuff, were hooking up with him.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like nobody cared that like these young, and even there's like a few stories like that in some of those celebrity memoirs where it's like this young boy hooking up with adult women, and everyone just like, it's
like
fine.
pat on the
like,
back, buddy.
Like those are criminals, those
I
women.
know. It seriously is so.
And in the media, we just kind of like, oh, that's so silly, hot for teacher.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it isn't. It's still bad.
And it's like, okay, it's one thing if the student has a crush on the teacher, but for the teacher to
then go on
with it, like
you can't do.
Oh my God.
I know. And then there's that power dynamic thing with the student teacher, and
it's not even like, it doesn't make a difference, but we're not talking about like juniors in college in this situation. We were or high school. I mean, we're talking about, or college. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
We're talking about middle schoolers.
I know, like 12 years old. And then there was another thing where it said they met when they were 8.
Yeah, when he was 8.
I mean, it's like, what?
Like, that is just incomprehensible. And for her to, and even in the movie, like, to say, no, like, this is just normal. This is our life.
We're in love, so it's fine. It's like, no.
And there was a
Can
point.
12-year-olds be in love? Like,
no,
sorry.
with a 30-something-year-old. And there was a point in the movie where, well, I guess it doesn't really matter if we give anything away. This has been out long enough. People should have watched it by now. But, Elizabeth and Joe have a little affair on the down low that was very short-lived. But then he kind of is thinking about his relationship with Gracie, and he tries to kind of confront her about stuff like, I've been thinking a lot, and what if I was too young to really understand what we were getting into, and if we're as in love as we say we are, why can't we talk about this? And she immediately goes into manipulation mode.
Crying. She's like, it's their graduation.
Yeah, what do you mean as in love as we say we are? Like, it's just...
And like even Elizabeth, it's like she knows that this Joe is so vulnerable, and she also takes advantage of him. And even though he's an adult now, it's just horrible.
Because of course, he's this
like
point,
stunted.
Yeah, and at this point, he is going to be very like, I guess, frozen when it comes to like women, and so she initiated like the kiss with him that started this little one-night stand, I guess. And it's like he was kind of just like numb to it until he was like, oh my God, she really likes me. And
then she like starts manipulating him, and he's like, what in the world? I thought you liked me. I thought we had a connection.
Sad.
It was so sad. And then the part where Gracie is like, he's been with 2 other girls besides me.
That was crazy.
Like, when he kissed 2 girls in the 7th grade.
Yeah, like that doesn't count.
It's just so like the
I wonder if that was real too.
I know.
There's so many things I'm like, I want to know what's real and what's not.
I know.
And how she was like, in her interview, she's like, he had all the control. He was the boss. He seduced me.
What? I know, it's just so...
It's so hard to wrap your mind around.
I know, and just like the delusion of it.
I think I talked about this on the podcast before, but it reminded me just in the same realm of A Teacher, which was also on Hulu, and that was with Kate Mara and I don't know what the kid's name is, but he was in Love, Simon. Was that that one little movie?
Yeah,
I think it was that. Anyway, and he was in high school, and she's this like young teacher that comes in, and it's like, yeah, they're closer in age.
Right.
But then we go through and see how he was so broken by their relationship, and like they ended up getting caught, and she obviously like got in legal trouble, criminal, whatever. But he like could not like properly move on with his life, and he was so affected by it. And like he went off to college, and it was like he couldn't function really, and he couldn't be a regular college student. And it's like the same thing with this movie and the Mary Kay Letourneau and Vili's relationship. It's like he was just like blocked by their relationship, and like you said, stunted. Like the psychological impacts.
And it's like we need to talk about that more. And it's like it can happen to boys too. And it's like we need to acknowledge that.
It's just like literally to put it in perspective. Like if you like when you're like, how old was she when they got together? Like in her mid-30s,
I think it was 36.
Okay, so your son is 4. So if you met a boy in your son's class in like 5 years and you suddenly like started an affair in a couple more years, but like it's your son's friend.
And that's like, it's even
like
grosser.
How...
I don't think, especially if you have a kid that age, like it just like,
and she had 4 kids.
Literally.
It's just so hard to even wrap your mind around.
How could you not see them as a kid? Even as a 30-year-old, like I don't want to be anywhere near 18-year-olds.
I know.
Let alone
you like... They open their mouth and you're like, what the? Like, I don't miss those days.
No. Or even if you're scrolling on TikTok.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my God.
Get this kid out of here.
I know. It's like, how could you possibly? But I guess it was interesting that just the spin that they put on the movie. Was it this movie that I was blown away by? No.
I know. I think it definitely could have been better. Like, I feel like but it wasn't, I don't know. It was like a weird movie to try to like make.
I know.
Good,
like, I don't
like sexy.
Yeah. I don't know what they could have done differently, really. And then it was interesting at the end how it just kind of shows Natalie Portman's Elizabeth actually filming for the role, and she had previously asked for a sexier 12-year-old, and they did in fact find one. And they're like reenacting in the movie they're pet shop lovers instead of teacher student, but so they're like reenacting like a romantic moment in the pet shop, and she does the take like 4 times, and the director's like, great, we got it. And she's like, no,
I want to do it again.
Just for me.
I know. And then it almost makes you...
It's becoming real.
I know. It's like, it makes you wonder what then happens to her character.
I know. Like, does she get involved?
I know. Does she have an affair with this actor? You know?
I know. It was very...
That's interesting.
Yeah, I would love to know if any of our listeners
did you watch this movie? What'd you think of it? Did you think it was good? Did you like the acting? Do you know more about the Mary Kay Letourneau thing?
Yeah.
Or do you remember it like happening in real time?
As it was happening. Yeah. It's a lot to unpack. It just like, it makes me want to just spend the rest of the evening like watching interviews.
Really taking it all in.
It also just like gives me the chills.
I know, like the ick. It's hard to look away though, because it's like so inconceivable that you like have to try to understand the mindset
Yeah, that's where they did a good job of trying to paint that picture, I thought.
know. And they did make like Gracie kind of a evil or like not a good person. Like you didn't find her like sympathetic.
But it was interesting because at the beginning, I think it was kind of the opposite. Like at the very beginning of the movie, you're like, oh, she seems kind of normal. But then the more she spoke, the more you saw
Like,
things and you're like, oh, God. Yeah.
Icky.
Oh, and they didn't really, you know how those friends were over at the beginning? It was like, well, where were they later? Like,
I know,
we never saw them again.
I know. The only thing, it was just kind of like, I don't know if they were just trying to show that everybody was just okay with them living like that. They'd even have their kids go over and hang out. It's like, ooh.
It's just, I wonder, like, because in the movie, they had 3 kids, but in real life, they had 2. And in the one interview we were looking at, the kids were in the interview. And I just wonder, like, what they think now.
Right.
You know, now they're full adults. Like, what do they...
I know, because it's like, they, you know, this woman, you know, this Mary Kay doing this affected, you know, all her previous kids, affected all her... you know, or her 2 second generation kids. It's like you did more than just to even one person. Like you brought kids into this situation. Now they have to grow up like this.
And even with her ex-husband, like what a complete... I mean, talk about having the rug pulled out from underneath you. I mean, how could you ever conceive in your wildest dreams that your spouse would leave you for a child?
I know, like an affair, but no, it's even worse.
It's even worse than that.
And then she's like getting pregnant by him multiple times, going to jail, coming out of jail.
They just can't stay away from each other. It's just so, I think
like Joe or Vili's parents, it's like, what in the world?
I know. And like you said, in the movie, they showed a shot with Joe with his dad, and you were like, how can, you know, what's he feeling? Like, how can he not feel so horrible? But then in real life, Vili was one of, did they say
15 or something?
Yeah. And then the dad wasn't really in the picture.
And the mom, or was it the mom or the dad was married like 4 times?
The dad was married like 5 times.
So it's like he literally probably got lost in the mix, and then this woman comes in and takes advantage of him.
And honestly, I mean, this is not an excuse at all, but if you're a single parent with like 15 kids or however many they had, I'm sure 15. In that situation, like if a student or a teacher comes and takes interest, you're like, oh, thank goodness
someone's taking care of my kid.
Not to be controversial for a second time, but it's very reminiscent to the trust that families had in priests.
I know that it's like, it does make you wonder, like, or just make you think about if kids can have relationships with unrelated adults.
Yes,
at all.
You're so right.
You know, like even if you work with kids, it's like you literally have to keep such, because they will just get so attached. Yeah. Like, because they're so vulnerable at this age. And it's like, I don't know. I don't remember necessarily being like that, but I was never in like
a situation.
Like I wasn't going to the guidance counselor. I wasn't, you know, but you do wonder like if that the opportunity would have came across us, like would we have like.
Yeah. And I mean, we also weren't exposed to many male teachers either. So I do wonder like if, it's so weird to even say, but it's like if there were more opportunities, like would we have had like a crush on a teacher? You know, our male teachers were all like in their 60s at the
we had
youngest.
Like 3 of them.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. Like,
I know
and when we didn't have a lot of boys in our class either, it's like, well, would we have just had a crush on a teacher? But like, even if we were to act on it, it's still the adult needs to be the adult.
I know.
Like, it's just not even any
I
type
know.
of justification.
I know it's like you hate to give it, but it's like you see that these teenagers are so easy to like manipulate, or even kids too.
Kids. But
like,
then if the adult in that situation has a mental illness,
right,
then you can, I mean,
or stunted themselves, and they're like someone's giving me attention
trauma,
and love.
Yeah, like it really is
so icky.
Oh, it's just
so
disgusting.
complicated.
I think you said it too while we were watching the movie. You're like, it's so complicated, but it's not.
Right.
Because it is black and white wrong, right, but there still are all these little things sprinkled in.
There's like, mental disorders and everything. It's just so... I know. I even feel weird talking about it.
I know. I feel like... because talking about it almost feels like we're like justifying it in a way, but like excuses. We're not.
No. And it's just like more trying to give sympathy to the victims. Yeah. So it's like we understand why they're falling victim to it. But it's just so icky.
And it's weird too, like with A Teacher, with this movie. I mean, there's other ones out there too. Like, why are we fascinated by this? Like, why do we...
so taboo and like...
I know, like we make movies about it, we make shows about it. And like, I mean, you see it in the papers all the time or in the news. And
gross.
But like, how many times have I scrolled through?
I know, you're like, even on the Daily Mail, you come across an article like that and you're like,
I know, and I'm like, where did it happen? Like,
you're like, how old was she?
Oh my God. Yeah,
so
it's just so, like, I want all the horrid details.
I know, I want to know. It's so morbid.
Yeah, it's
even like, remember in like school, we won't name names or anything. Remember there was like the certain sports coaches?
Yeah, but this is in high school. Let's just premise. Yeah.
And there'd be like rumors and jokes made, but then it was like a couple years after we graduated, one of those coaches started dating a student, and it's
they're married now.
Yeah. It's like, so instead we were just like,
yeah.
Ew. And then it was like, genuinely an issue happening.
That was real. Yeah.
It's like, why did nobody do anything? Or even that other situation that happened with one of the counselor things. I guess we won't get into that.
No, that was a whole nother. Yeah, we actually have had a few brushes with
stuff. And
not with us, but with other people around us.
And you just wonder like what the actual story was, because we're just getting it from like an outside thing.
But like it is weird because stuff like this gets thrown in like movies in like a tongue-in-cheek way, like in Mean Girls.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh yeah, the coach is having an affair with this hot teen, like senior,
couple of them, and they're like fighting over him, and it's a joke.
Like what?
I know, like it's like that trope of like hot for teacher. Even the high school students are hooking up with the teacher. It's like, no, that shouldn't be funny.
I know,
like,
it's so weird. Or we see that in the movie when we're younger and we're like, gross.
Right, or even like Pretty Little Liars and Aria and, why can't I think? Ezra Fitz. It was so glamorized. Yeah. It's like she, and they kind of was like, oh, well, she lied about her age at first, and then all of a sudden he was the teacher. And it's like, instead of stopping it, it's like they end up getting married.
Stay away.
And it was like, oh yeah, like if a hot teacher wanted me, like it just felt like.
It felt like normal. It was fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's like the thing though. Like, cause I remember when we were in high school and there was like they're always the coaches who was like such a babe, and we'd be like, oh my gosh, if he even tried anything. But like in reality, like I think we knew that wasn't even in the realm of possibility.
So it was like okay to say it.
Yeah, but also like if it really did happen, like that would have messed us up.
I know. And I remember one time, I think it was me and you had like a serious conversation. We're like, what if like the teacher actually did, or like the coach actually did approach us? And we're like, I don't think we could actually do it.
Yeah.
You know, it was like we had this genuine, it's like it's all funny at first.
Yeah, until it
you
gets
actually
real.
do it. Or even that one girl that was at our school where it was like everybody thought there was something going on with her and this person that was an adult, and it like was true.
Yeah.
And none of us and it was almost like people kind of even made fun of it.
Yes, they
instead of
did.
being like, no, this was completely unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, nobody was there saying this isn't happening. They were like almost more feeding into it.
I know, they're like, of course,
Yeah.
because they're blah, blah, blah. And then it turns out to be real. And you're like, can we address this? I remember just like no one would take
that was really
like that.
brushed under the rug. Yeah.
Like, well,
but all
weird.
the situations that we are like referencing were
all of a sudden there's 100 of them.
I know that we're suddenly remembering, but all of them are older male and younger girl. And it's just, this does not get talked about enough when it's an older woman and a younger man, where like it's that just double standard of like, and it's fine.
Right. Or it's almost like because women are so much more emotional, they're like, oh, well, there must be real feelings there.
Right.
So
or
it's
like,
okay.
From the guy's side of it, it's like, oh, nice job. Like you're really like batting out of your, whatever the saying is, league or whatever. It's like, no, this is wrong.
I know, like that's an adult woman.
It's not okay. It's like,
not okay at all.
So wrong. It's so,
well, just, even like, not to bring up Degrassi, but I can always bring up Degrassi.
We got to find a way.
It was like the instances where it was the guy, older teacher with the girl. It was like really like big deal, bad. But there was one time they did it with a teacher and a senior, and they're kind of like, and he was kind of like, well, I am 18. And it was just like kind of no big deal. And like Degrassi didn't really address it the way they did when it was like, the men.
No, it's fine.
Like, he's 18. It's totally cool.
I know. And even, just not even like the age thing or the maturity thing. Right. It's like ethically, morally.
Right, that power dynamic. Yes. You can't be doing that.
Yeah.
It's like they have no choice, like, you know.
So I don't know. Would you recommend May, December?
I think if you were pretty familiar with the case, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's one that I think I probably could have survived with not ever watching.
And it's like a one watch. Okay, like, oh, I saw it. It's
I'll never watch it again. Yeah. But I mean, I thought the acting, they were very committed actors. There were weird parts of it. I guess I would say like you said, if you know about the case and
maybe you'd like get more of the references and stuff. Yeah, if you're bored, if you want to look
the holidays are coming up, families will be home. Maybe this is
a feel good movie to watch.
Something you can watch with like your parents or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say use your own discretion.
If you think this sounds like something you'd want to watch or like have a discussion about, then watch it.
But if not, then probably stay away.
Maybe skip.
Well, I guess, should we wrap it up?
Sure.
Well, like we said, don't forget, we're recording early because of the holidays. We have an interview that'll be coming up for next week's episode that we're very excited about.
I know. So hopefully all that goes well, and that'll be a fun treat.
And don't forget to find us on our social medias. Please follow us and interact with us. We say it every single week.
About our podcast to let it just play through.
I think we said this on Thanksgiving, but in the spirit of Christmas, if you guys are thinking of any like last minute gifts to get Hannah and listening to the podcast and just telling a friend.
I
And
know.
maybe
make multiple Spotify accounts.
Yeah, or
and let them play.
If you have a like significant other or sibling or something, and you could take their phone and just like
let it play when they're
let
not
it
looking.
play and follow us on all channels of social media, that would be an amazing gift, and we would appreciate it so much. But yeah, we hope you guys have a nice holiday season, and we will talk to you later.
Bye.